August 10, 2022. 8 guards were injured during an August 10 attack by inmates of a central New York maximum security prison, Correctional Officers Union officials said this week. At about 7:43 a.m., 2 Auburn Correctional Facility officers were escorting a prisoner from the mess hall when a prisoner began punching one of the officers in the face, union officials with the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association said. Several officers responded and helped put the inmate into a body hold, officials said. They initially forced him against a wall before forcing him to the ground, they said. Eventually they were able to remove the inmate from the mess hall area, officials said. The guard who was attacked suffered a broken nose and was treated at Auburn Community Hospital, officials said. During the first attack, a second inmate began yelling and approaching guards, officials said. An officer stepped in front of the inmate, who began stabbing at the officer's neck and face, they said. The inmate was eventually brought to the ground by several officers, handcuffed and taken from the area, officials said. The injured officer was taken to the Auburn Hospital with a stab wound to the neck, officials said. 6 other officers were injured in the attacks, 4 of whom were taken to the Auburn Hospital for further treatment, officials said. A makeshift weapon sharpened on one end was later found during a search of inmate cells after the attacks, according to the release. Officials did not say if the weapon was used in the attack. Both inmates involved in the attacks were taken to 5 Points Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison in Romulus, according to the release. The first inmate, 31, is serving a 23-year sentence after a 2016 conviction for first-degree assault in Monroe County, officials said. The second inmate, 33, is serving a 12-year sentence after being convicted of multiple drug felonies in Nassau County, they said. During the attacks, 15 other inmates made threats against officers, officials said. Those inmates face disciplinary charges for their actions, according to the release. The discovery of what the head of the State Corrections Officers Union called a cache of weapons led to a lockdown at Auburn Correctional Facility last week. The State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision confirmed that the lockdown began on May 31 after a number of contraband items were found in a prison restroom. A facility-wide search commenced and more contraband was found, according to the department. The lockdown has since been lifted and the prison is resuming normal activities, DEC said. The department declined further comment due to an ongoing investigation. Lockdown after an inmate attacked a corrections officer, slashing the officer across the face, a union representative said. The officer got attacked pretty seriously, said James Miller, a spokesman for the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association, the union representing prison officers. The maximum security prison was still locked down by late Monday afternoon, according to Thomas Maley, a spokesman for the State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. He said he was unsure how long the facility would remain in lockdown. The prisoner who was accused of attacking the officer has been moved to another facility, Maley said. The department. Auburn Prison has been locked down several times in the past. In 2019, the facility was locked down for more than a week due to inmate fights and violent assaults on staff. A 20-inmate melee and a fight that included another inmate being stabbed in the head led to several days of lockdowns in 2018. Auburn Correctional Facility is still under lockdown after an inmate slashed a corrections officer across the face Sunday, an official with the guards union said. The 14-year veteran officer sustained a 7-inch cut to the left side of his face that required 30 stitches to close, according to the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. The union did not identify the guard. Officer was attacked while letting inmates out of their cells for dinner. An inmate approached the officer from behind and cut the officer from the left corner of his mouth to his ear with an unknown weapon, law enforcement officials said. The inmate then assaulted 2 officers who came to help. He grabbed one officer by the wrist and began punching the other officer in the face repeatedly, according to officials. It took 5 officers to restrain him. The inmate is serving a 25-year to life sentence for robbery, attempted assault and other charges, officials said. He has been moved to Attica Correctional Facility, said Mark Burgomaster, N.Y.C. Scottsboro Regional Vice President. The weapon has not been found, officials said. The purpose of the lockdown is to locate the weapon and all other weapons inmates have hidden. Burgomaster said the Auburn prison is not any more susceptible to contraband than any other prison. However, there is a high concentration of violent offenders which has led to violence, he said. 2 separate inmate attacks at the Auburn Correctional Facility put 12 correction officers in the hospital within a time span of 3 days, according to the N.Y.C. Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association. Lockdown has been lifted at the Auburn Correctional Facility after a series of inmate-on-inmate fights and assaults on staff during the month of March. According to the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association, N.Y.C, since March 1st assaults on staff have occurred at the facility and a large number of inmate-on-inmate fights caused officials to lock down the facility. Over that period of time, officers seized 82 makeshift weapons, 37 of which were found during the lockdown. Officials say the majority of weapons were a type of ice pick. In one incident, officers seized a store-bought composite-type knife that was 6.5 inches long from one inmate during a search. The lockdown occurred on March 18 and was lifted yesterday. A N.Y.C representative says the inmate-on-inmate fights appear to be gang-related and several involved inmates being cut or slashed. The 4 assaults on staff resulted in minor injuries to officers.
I stand in the Boston Road, Stevens Avenue.